I am 21 years old. Please enlighten me. Story 1. Emotional regulation is important. People sometimes do unwise or even harmful things. Ensuring you can respond appropriately and safely for those needing protection is a skill everyone should have. Story 2. Basic repairs and maintenance. Learn how to replace a ceiling fan and perform an oil change. You will save a lot of money in the long run. Learn how to cook at least one dish very well. Learn how to control your ego and temper. Story 3. Delayed gratification. The ability to forego immediate gratification in the pursuit of higher, more meaningful and rewarding goals. Countless studies have shown this ability predicts life success. Story 4. Investing, basic maintenance education, trade skills, and basic survival skills. Reading a map, hunting and fishing, building a fire and shelter construction. Focus on what you excel at and charge money for your skills. Story 5. How to say no to your manager. How to call in sick without taking on the manager's responsibility of finding a replacement. If you were well enough to make those calls, you probably would not need to call in sick. Understand that your employer is your customer. You are offering them your life and skills. Value yourself accordingly. Story 6. All domestic tasks. Cooking, cleaning, scheduling, finances, and more. Basic maintenance. If a job requires nothing more than a screwdriver or sockets, you should be able to do it. You should be able to change a tire and oil in your car and perform basic maintenance on appliances if you own them. Story 7. Just to be different? Basic sewing skills like repairing a button or mending a hem can save you some money. Story 8. As I tell my children, sometimes you have to just learn how to figure it out when something breaks. Take it apart. Watch a how-to video. Take photos of things before you disassemble them and then try to figure out what does what. Story 9. Using your indicators, whether you are driving your car or navigating a relationship, no one will ever know what you want if you do not express it. Indicators are not the same as hazard lights. To struggle is to live, but suffering is a choice. Story 10. Cooking and cleaning. Surprise, surprise. I have met many grown men who cannot cook or do their own laundry. I am embarrassed for them. When living with a significant other, you cannot just make your partner do everything. We can mop the floors too and do the dishes. Story 11. Emotional regulation is essential. You will become a toxic person if you do not master it. There is a lot of popular psychology about what qualifies as narcissism, gaslighting, manipulation, and similar behaviors. The truth about any of these interpretations is that being toxic will eventually lead to loneliness. Story 12. How to facilitate an honest relationship and dialogue between the conscious self, which processes up to 55 bits of information per second, and the unconscious self, which processes up to 11 million bits of information per second. It is simple introspection work, but often painful. Simple things are always the most difficult. In actual life, it requires the greatest art to be simple. Acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem and the acid test of one's whole outlook on life, as Jung said. Story 13. Not specifically directed at men, but about accepting responsibility for your actions and choices. Many people go through life blaming others or making excuses, when in reality, they were the ones who made the choice. Story 14. 1. Mental. Ability to think clearly and critically to understand the core of the issue and have the courage to address it. Money. Ability to be patient and consistent, such as brushing teeth twice per day and saving 20 to 30% of income into index funds or stable dividend stocks over years and decades. Character. Being kind does not mean sacrificing yourself to help others. Avoid toxic or narcissistic people like the plague. Read books, blogs, or listen to audio that help you grow as a person, not just consume junk content. Health. Exercise regularly, avoid excessive junk food and alcohol, and maintain regular sleep and rest. Basic repair, maintenance, handyman, and cooking skills, at least for indoor tasks. Story 15. Let's start with learning to pump gas, then change oil and filter, and then change your tire. Get a notebook and keep everything in it as you learn something new. Eventually, you will learn about finance. Start slow with your bills and keep track of everything in your book. That's a great place to start. Story 16. Learn how to be a good man, boyfriend, husband, and father early in life. Then become that person as you grow. Learn a skill such as mechanics, cooking, repairing woodwork, and cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Story 17. Learn to admit when you are wrong, ask questions if you do not know something, and learn to see anger as suffering. Story 18. First aid and cardiopulmonary resuscitation certification is important. If you are not planning to obtain or renew your certification, at least train up to the first level of certification. I have been fortunate to assist in some emergency situations, but many people panic or do not know what to do. The bystander effect will worsen with our dependence on technology. Reviewing your training every 6 months is sufficient for retention. Story 19. Cooking saves money and is a skill everyone should learn at least the basics of. Personally, it is something I ended up enjoying much more than I expected. Story 20. Learn how to budget and manage your finances. Track your expenses monthly. I know many adults, including those older than me, who have no idea where their money goes. Story 21. Any do-it-yourself tasks such as drilling, plumbing, repairs, simple electrical work, and car maintenance. These skills were really hard to learn in the past. However, with the internet and video tutorials, they have become essential. By the way, start buying and collecting tools when you are young. You will be happy with the investment throughout the years. Story 22. Not taking things too seriously. Handling situations with humor because usually even the worst events are not as bad as they seem at the moment. Story 23. Being happy by yourself and being capable of entertaining yourself is important. You do not need anyone to do it for you, and if you do, then you are doing being a man wrong. It seems to be a skill that many young men do not have these days. By all means, have relationships, get married, and so on. But do it because these things add to your life, not because you need to fill something you are missing. Story 24. I had to teach myself a few things due to a lack of male role models. First, how to shave properly. Second, how to cook. Third, how to assemble and disassemble items correctly. Finally, I try to be good at self-discipline. Story 25. Cooking, minor repairs such as changing washers on taps or changing taps. Changing a tire. This is still relevant when traveling long distances in rural areas, less so in city areas. Ironing and washing clothes. Changing car oil and adjusting or replacing motorbike chains if you ride motorcycles. Saving money. How to wear or tie a tie. How to shine shoes, although this is less common nowadays. How to sew on a button. Maintaining good hygiene. Ensure you and your clothes are clean and smell pleasant. Take care of your mouth and teeth. Story 26. Basic household maintenance tasks include replacing a light switch, installing a window air conditioner, changing filters, painting, and repairing drywall or plaster. It is amazing how much you can do without needing professionals. Story 27. Self-reflection. Take time to think about how you handled certain situations. Make the necessary changes to improve next time. Story 28. You've got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you are sitting at the table, there will be time enough for counting. When the dealings are done. Kenny Rogers. The Gambler. Story 29. Look up the poem A Human Should by the fictional character Lazarus Long, written by Robert Heinlein. Then look up the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. Once you have mastered everything on those two lists, get a copy of the Boy Scouts Encyclopedia of Merit Badges from around 1969. After you have gone through and learned that, you are finally ready to truly call yourself a man and have basically everyone who is sane agree with you. Story 30. Social skills involve how to interact with people in various settings, how to be humorous, how to communicate with both men and women, and how to stop trying to please everyone or worrying about what others think all the time, and instead be true to oneself. Story 31. Cooking skills. From a woman's perspective, it is very attractive when a man knows how to cook or bake because he can feed his loved ones. Story 32. How to find the little man in the boat and what to do with it. Every time I see or hear a joke about men not being able to find the clitoris, I think, it is right there. What do people mean when they say men cannot find it? Story 33. Knowing when it is appropriate to swear and when it is not can ease the pain but may also damage your image to others. Story 34. Ironing your clothes properly. I was adopted my senior year by a Marine Corps family, and they taught me to iron with crisp lines. Now I am the go-to ironer in my family, as my wife was never taught. Story 35. Learn to cook. It is so easy and actually a lot of fun once you get the hang of things. Then you can start trying out new techniques and recipes. It is also impressive to cook for someone on a date. Learn to change a tire too. It is super easy and could come in very handy one day. Story 36. Learn to cook. I learned way too late, when I was divorcing and had to feed myself and my children. I knew a few basics, so I had somewhere to start, but I should have learned much more earlier in life. I just never had to before. Story 37. Problem solving. Learn to actually sit with a problem and try to solve it instead of just giving up at the first roadblock. It is a huge red flag to me when someone does not bother to try to solve something if they do not already have the answer or know how. Not even a search online. Another skill is being able to find information. Story 38. During my childhood, I was taught to be brave in the face of physical danger, but I was not taught to be brave when it came to confrontations about pay raises or workmanship. Story 39. Self-control emotionally, physically, psychologically, and professionally. Too many men lack the ability to control themselves in various situations or circumstances. They either lash out in anger or fail to manage their emotions and communicate effectively. Story 40. Learn that you can fix many things around the house even if you need a little help from YouTube or Google. Cleaning out a drain or dryer vent, fixing a clothes dryer easy, cleaning a carburetor on a lawnmower, installing less garage lights, replacing a photocell in a post light. So much of this is easy if you have a few basic tools. Can save you a lot of money and impress your partner. Story 41. Excel might not be the most impressive skill, but the little that I know has done a lot for me during my career and helps with budgeting. Story 42. Today I learned that there is a difference between a drill bit and a screwdriver bit, and I have never felt more enlightened. Story 43. Not every man, but here are things I look back on and wish I did at 21. 1. Understanding firearms. 2. Understanding survival skills. 3. Learning how to dance. 4. Learning how to modify and sew my clothes. 5. Understanding color coordination better. 6. Understanding how to make perfect bread. 7. Understanding finance, stocks, and investments better. Understanding mortgages and loans better. 9. Becoming fully fluent in another language. 10. Understanding pre-2000s automobiles better. 11. Learning an instrument. There usually is not someone who suddenly teaches you these things. Like I just did, make a list of things you think you need to learn or want to learn, and from there, start figuring out ways to cross things off your list. Over the years, I worked on a lot of these. Story 44. A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, navigate a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. Robert A. Heinlein. Story 45. How to handle your own problems when it comes to basic repairs. It is just one of those things that makes life much less stressful. Plus, there is something satisfying about fixing things with your own hands. It makes you feel capable and impresses people more than you would think. Story 46. Cook, cook, cook. Men, there is nothing a woman finds hotter than a man who can cook a fine dish. I learned that at a young age and was made fun of when I made dinner for ladies. Well, guess who was feeding women and having them snuggle afterwards? Story 47. Cooking. In my opinion, cooking is the single greatest skill, bar none. It is an artistic skill if you want it to be. It saves you money and is financially prudent when you can make restaurant-quality meals for less than 25% of the price. Everyone loves a person who can cook. It requires skill. There is a lot to learn and many cuisines to explore, so you will never get bored. It is meditative, and after a certain point, you can play things by ear without needing recipes. It is the most rewarding skill a person can learn. Story 48. Robert Greene's book, Mastery, discusses how manipulating objects with your hands develops mental abilities in other ways. Activities like making and fixing things or playing musical instruments help develop neural pathways. More repetitive tasks that don't engage the creative mind, like typing, may be less useful because once the skill is learned, the problem-solving aspect is diminished compared to creating things with your hands. These are valuable skills to develop and may improve general problem-solving. I have been making, modifying, and repairing things for so long that it has wired me to focus on pragmatic solutions and easily identify unaddressed flaws and blind spots in many theoretical solutions I regularly encounter. Story 49. How to break up. How to determine why and when to end a relationship and follow through with it. This could save many men and the mismatched women they date or marry from a lot of confusion and pain. Story 50. Do not cook just one dish well. Cook healthy, inexpensive meals. This advice is not just for women, but for your wallet, your heart, and your waistline. Story 51. Learning self-importance. Societal norms for men, at least from my experience, teach the opposite. Not everything needs to be done for someone else's validation or needs. You should already know the basics: cooking, cleaning, laundry, and time management. Another key skill is understanding and maintaining your mental health. That's all I have. Story 52. I am a 22-year-old man. My advice is to learn how to cook simple meals well. This will save you money, and home-cooked food is usually healthier and tastier than takeout. You should also learn to talk about your feelings and manage them in a healthy way. I am still developing this skill, and my therapist has been an important companion in helping me come to terms with my childhood and adolescence. Story 53. Speaking well means projecting your voice, having an extensive vocabulary, knowing how to adjust your manner of speaking, being concise, and not stumbling over your words. Story 54. Seeing through deception. For example, let's say you are buying a used car. If the salesperson says, "I'm offering you a great deal, but you have to make a decision right now," walk away immediately. It's clearly a bad deal, and they don't want you to think about it too much or ask someone who might explain why it is bad. In such a situation, always ask what a person's incentives are. What do they stand to gain? What is their angle? Learn to be skeptical, not prejudiced or judgmental, merely skeptical. Another example: the only true get-rich-quick scheme is selling get-rich-quick schemes to gullible, desperate people. When I was your age, I was still pretty naive. It is easy to be taken advantage of when you have a good heart because you simply cannot imagine why others would lie, cheat, and steal, so it is not something you have any defense against. Politicians speak deception from their mouths. So do religious or cult leaders, influencers, financial experts, and others. Learn to spot sources of deception in the wild by asking, what is in it for them? Story 55. Definitely emotional intelligence. Understanding your feelings and being able to empathize with others can lead to stronger connections and healthier relationships. Story 56. In addition to all the other good suggestions here, welding is impressive. It is amazing how you can take two pieces of steel, join them with electricity, and they become a single piece. Check if there is a makerspace near you, a community center, or a shop that offers training. I went to a place like that and learned a lot in just 3 hours. Story 57. Social intelligence and skill. Learning how to be likable and draw people to you is an invaluable skill. Sadly, it is something that is best learned when young. Like a foreign language, if you try to learn after a certain age, it becomes very difficult and is never truly natural. However, if your parents spend the effort to socialize you with competent role models and examples, it is a skill that will make you very successful in anything you do. Story 58. Learn how to make a soup, a stir-fry, casserole, a steak, a roast. Get a cast iron pan and learn to care for it. It is easy. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Story 59, Cooking, Financial Literacy, Basic Car and Handyman Maintenance, How to Read and Follow Written Instructions. Story 60, Changing a Flat Tire. In general, I think rules like real men do X are unhelpful, but I do seriously question the masculinity of any man who cannot change a flat tire. Story 61, Talk to People. Human interaction is declining. There is less conversation online with individuals or companies. Order your coffee at the counter instead of using the app in advance. Say hello to your neighbors. Make eye contact. Use proper greetings and goodbyes. Story 62. Learning to remain silent unless your input is requested or appreciated is important for job promotion. Otherwise, it may harm your job and strong relationships you have already established. Story 63. Self-reliance means not expecting others to validate your feelings or uplift your self-worth just because you did not receive it growing up. This creates too many issues later on. Learn to address these challenges early and be emotionally fulfilled later in life. Story 64. Learn to maintain your house and vehicles. Sometimes things get tough and you cannot afford a repairman. Learning to take care of your belongings is very important. No one will care for your things better than you because only you know what they cost. No one owes you anything. If you want something, go out and get it. Too many weak men have no backbone. Do not be afraid to get your hands dirty. Story 65. Basic car repairs and replacements. Unless you have the tools and training for advanced repairs, you will need to visit a mechanic for large jobs. However, basic upkeep and filter replacements you should handle yourself. For example, I noticed my gas mileage seemed to have decreased, so I mentioned it to the mechanics when I got my oil changed. They suggested a tune-up costing $350, which is frankly excessive. I reached out to my brother, who is a mechanic, and he told me to replace the spark plugs and engine filter. I failed to change the filter around the 30,000-mile mark, and it clearly shows. I also bought a cabin filter, and while I still need to buy the spark plugs, I have already seen an improvement in my gas mileage. When I get the plugs, I will probably spend a total of $100 and 20 minutes of my time versus $350. Story 66. Performing routine maintenance on your automobile. How to prepare a good meal. And no, I do not mean scrambled eggs and bacon. Story 67. Learning how to maintain bowel health through a prebiotic and probiotic diet. This is not specific to men, but it is still important nonetheless. Story 68. Learn when to ask questions when you do not know something. Learn to recognize when someone is asking or when they are doing something unwise and say something. Know when to fight and when not to. Know when to walk away from any situation, not just fights. Story 69. The one life skill every man must master is the ability to solve problems and rely on himself. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your partner, not the government. If you cannot identify a problem and systematically work towards a solution, whether it is a leaky faucet, a financial crisis, a career roadblock, or a broken relationship, you are weak. A man who waits for others to fix his life is a boy. A man who actively seeks understanding, learns the necessary skills, and takes action to overcome obstacles is a man. This builds confidence, respect, and a solid foundation for everything else in your life. Story 70. Discipline. You will need to do many things in life that are not fun. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline is what makes you stick to it. Story 71. Emotional regulation and how to express emotions effectively and calmly. How to communicate in a relationship. Manual transmission. Story 72. When not to talk and to listen instead. Active listening will help you in your personal and professional lives to be more perceptive, demonstrate intelligence and understanding. It will also give the words you speak more weight. Story 73. Living life based on a set of values. Basic, as in setting a base for the rest to follow. It does not get more basic than this. Some parts of the video I am about to suggest are deplorable, specifically the homophobia. However, this video about raising godly children provides a decent guideline to start with. Do not mistake this for supporting Christianity. I am supporting values, and these two alleged Christians speak well on most topics in the video, except for their homophobia. Story 74. Cooking helps your waistline and your wallet. Can be done individually or as a group. You can cook for yourself or for others. You can host Thanksgiving or cook for a date. Story 75. How to handle rejection with grace and humility. That is the secret to the confidence that women appreciate. If you are not afraid of her saying no, it is easier to take your chance, and you will not have the undercurrent of nerves and desperation that often causes them to say no. Story 76. A life skill all men should have is knowing how to cook. Not just things from a box, but from scratch. Italian dishes, chicken or veal piccata or marsala, properly cooked steaks, barbecue skills, seafood dishes, and even exotic Thai curries with meats or seafood. It is really easy, and you will impress your significant other or friends. Watch a cooking show. It is simple. Story 77. Basically every tradesman's skill and growing food. Philosophy, finances, politics, and economics. I think since we are not living in monasteries or the Middle East, a vital part of half of our lives is women, a skill which will push your limits. Story 78. The importance of hygiene, not just personal hygiene, but also for your home. I know guys who have houses that are actual dank pits of despair. Your home is an extension of your mental and physical health. The ability to keep it clean can elevate both. First aid. What no means. Driving, manual transmission, basic do-it-yourself and car repairs. Seriously, when did men stop being able to change a tire? Overall, be the kind of man you'd be happy your daughter brought home to meet you. Story 79. Basic hygiene. Do not just apply a new coat of deodorant if you already have old sweat odor. Wash or shower first, then apply a fresh coat of deodorant. It only costs you 5 minutes. There is no need to sit next to me on the commuting train, smelling unpleasant for an hour. Especially if you just left home this morning, you had all last night and this morning to wash. Story 80. How to manage your money properly. Whether it is reducing unnecessary spending or investing it wisely. As a younger man growing up, I never had or was offered any advice. People used to tell me to buy registered retirement savings plans and contribute more to my pension plan, additional voluntary contributions. I wish I had asked more questions earlier in life about investing, wealth, and income. Story 81. Throw a football and baseball. Grill a steak. Ride a motorcycle. Play poker. Cook one dish. Scrambled and poached eggs. Grilled cheese. Spaghetti sauce. Give a toast. Change a tire. Gut and scale a fish. Light a campfire. Drive a boat. Drive a manual transmission vehicle. Ride a horse. Basic engine maintenance. How to check the oil. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.